council meeting. And then we'll have them come to the committees after. Is that correct? Can one of our attorneys or director just confirm that? Awesome, thank you. Is there, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of amendments. Can we have approval of the Housing Human Welfare minutes from 5/29/25 and 6/30/25?
So moved.
Okay. See it.
Already second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. We're going to move on to the next portion of the agenda, legislative items, starting with 2025 sale of city-owned property at 932 Spa Road and 935 Spa Road. And I'll turn it over to the lead on this to give background and intro, and then we'll just take questions from the committee. Does anybody?
I can give us a really brief, Allison. I'll just
Go ahead,
give
Matt.
the high overview. I'll hand it to you. This is Matt Flinner, Director of Central Services. And what we're here discussing today is a transfer of the Spa Road property from the city to the Resilience Authority. And it's the type of project where a lot of departments have a hand in this one. So Allison has been doing a lot of reporting out along with Ashley, Chris, and myself. Oh, and Christina's here from the Resilience Authority to answer questions on their behalf as well. So we kind of have the whole committee here for you all today. And Allison, with that, do you want to give an overview to the group?
Sure. Allison Amadio, City of Annapolis Public Works Engineer. In general, we're asking for the property transfer so that we can apply for a brownfields grant. The brownfields grant gives us a potential to secure up to $4 million for cleanup of the Spa Road property. The city is considered the contaminator of the site, so we can't apply for the brownfields grant. So in order to do that, we're asking to switch to a responsible party that can apply for the grant. This is going to be our last opportunity for the grant without having to match. And the grant is due in November. So this process is happening quickly because the property transfer will need to take place prior to the November application.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions from the committee? I know some of you may have had this at previous hearings.
I'm ready to go. I feel like I've had so many, heard this presentation many times, and I'm grateful for Ms. DiMatteo and everybody to describe it to us in so much detail.
Thank you so much, Alderman Huntley. Alderman Chandler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in pretty similar sentiments with Alderman Huntley. This is my third time hearing this presentation. I think our staff has done a fantastic work showcasing what is at stake with this. I think the main thing to stress here is that if we miss this boat, there are not other boats, or to use my example today, if we miss this bus, there are not other buses. So we really cannot delay on this, regardless of what we want to do with the property, whether we want to use it for city office spaces, use it as part of the CNI, or use it to sell to another affordable housing developer per the original resolution we did for the Spa Road site. We need to do some type of remediation on this. So it's a pretty good deal. One question that I had during the Economic Matters hearing, and I didn't get an answer there, but I'm wondering if staff has been able to find an answer on this. was I know we're not allowed to sell this for, or the Resiliency Authority is not allowed to sell this back for a profit, but were we able to determine if costs put into the remediation project could be recuperated in the selling back to the city of Annapolis itself? So let's say we get the $4 million grant, and then the Resiliency Authority spends another $2 million on remediation. Is the Resiliency Authority, to recoup its losses, allowed to sell it back to us for $2 million? They haven't made a profit, but we had to make up that difference. Do we have an answer for that now?
Sure, I can address that.
Thank you.
Christina Alexander, Director of Operations for the Resilience Authority. So what I should have said at the previous meeting was to bring up the reverter clause, which is going to resolve any question of whether or not the property needs to be sold back to the city. It's not going to need to be sold back to the city because the reverter clause is going to take care of transferring the property back to the city without the need for a sale. So, whether or not in the time being we, resolve the issue of costs to hold the property in the meantime, that's not going to be factored into a sale back to the city. That would be some other, agreement between the city and the Resilience Authority to cover those costs. I hope that answers your question, but I'm happy to take additional questions.
So for my clarification, the reverter clause would mean that the property would just transfer back to the city with no additional need for us to pay more money to get the property back, correct?
Correct. Not even the $1 that we would pay to get the property in the first place.
That seems like a very good deal. No further questions.
Sounds like we're making $1 on this. My goodness.
You're making a whole dollar. We could buy half a soda with some current inflation prices.
Thank you, Alderman Schandemeyer and Miss Alexander. I appreciate you asking those questions as well. I just have like two quick follow-ups off of that. It's noted here that, so I'm assuming that the staff report or the fiscal note is no longer accurate, that, the city will have to pay for a closing cost. You're saying that that's inaccurate?
I'll refer to Ms. Leonard.
I see. Yeah, City Attorney Leonard, sorry.
No, we're still having to pay the closing costs, but given that we're a governmental organization, closing costs are fairly low because we don't have to pay for recordation or things of those nature. They're all waived for us. So closing costs wouldn't be substantial.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. And then just lastly, R1721, which obviously notes the CNI, and then R2022 are noted and added in this, prepared package for the legislation. What does that mean? Is the Resilience Authority in agreement with the city that at some point this will be affordable housing? Do they even care once they turn it back over to the city? What strings are attached, I guess, so that in the long run, affordable housing can be developed there? And I also appreciate the extensive reports that were done by Haley and Aldrich with history there. That was, very, very nice.
Certainly, we're supportive of remediating the site to the point that affordable housing or any housing can be placed on the site. And we're willing to work with the city to make sure that that remediation occurs and to try and seek the funding in order to obtain that remediation. But I will defer to the city if you have any additional comments.
So I just I see the city attorney again. I'm sorry.
No, Alderman, I was just going to say the Resilience Authority is assisting us in a legal loophole in order to get funding, but they don't actually have, and they want to accomplish remediation, which is consistent with their purposes. But, and Christina can correct me if I'm misspeaking, but they otherwise don't really have sort of an interest or in what the end result of the property usage is. Their purpose is to assist the city and the county with environmental issues, and that is what they're stepping in for their role to do. But then beyond that, how we actually end up using the property is more of a conversation for the city and other interested parties to discuss.
Okay, and after the remediation, it will be set to the standards so that something could be developed there nonetheless. And I appreciate that. The city attorney has previously said that resolutions aren't legally binding. And so are we relying on the city council in 7 years to, in fact, in good faith say, hey, they passed in 2021 and 2022 legislation asking for affordable housing to be developed at this site? Or there's something else need to be accompanying 2025 so that ultimately, once this is transferred back to the city, there will be affordable housing projects developed there.
So I don't think we need anything accompanying this, but there will need to be other legal paperwork that we will need to enter into legal agreements with potentially HACA and the Resilience Authority and others. If we apply for a CNI grant, that will come with legal agreements. So yes, the resolutions show the intent now, but I would say that if we're going to continue moving this project forward in the next year or so, we're going to have to enter other legally binding agreements with all of the interested parties, including like the EPA and HUD, that would set what the project is.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I realize that, there is a lot of work to be done. I'm not going to hold it up tonight because regardless, we do need something to happen there. I see that there's also an amendment there. Does anybody want to speak to the Finlayson amendment, which just essentially is a technical amendment? Alderwoman Finlayson?
I'll be glad to. Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the questions, and we had many questions about this transaction, but the year 7 raised an eyebrow because we didn't know why 7, and our amendment speaks to up to 7 years. So it's a minor amendment, but we wanted to be able to get this property back, not having to wait the full 7 years. And maybe Ms. Alexander can speak to why the year 7 was, or Ms. Leonard, why 7 years was chosen as the number.
Yes, I believe the 7-year time frame was chosen in order to accommodate applying for and then obtaining the grant, and then accommodating a 5-year period of performance, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone from the city. But the amendment was added so that if the remediation is completed prior to that time, that the property would go ahead and revert back to the city, and we wouldn't need to continue to hold on to it for the full 7 years.
Correct. That is the intent of the amendment.
Okay.
Ms. Leonard, anything to add?
Nope, you guys got it.
I'd simply like to add that there's going to be a joint meeting of rules and environmental matters on Wednesday. So if there's still questions, that would be an opportunity to get some more answers.
I appreciate that very much, Alderwoman Finlayson. And I mean, obviously the appropriate forum to discuss housing needs would be the Housing and Human Welfare Committee. But again, we're on a tight timeline. So I appreciate all the efforts that the staff has put into this. I'm looking forward to the remediation taking place. Alderman Huntley, I see your hand up before I was about to call for a vote. I will turn over to you.
I don't want to hold it up either, but I did just have one other question that Alderman Channelmeyer reminded me of from whatever some other committee, we were talking about this. My question the other night was, we had a testimony asking for an archaeological study, and I said I thought that that would be included as part of the brownfield funding. Has anybody been able to look into that and verify? Alderman Gay, I think the deputy city manager.
I'm sorry, my apologies. Deputy City Manager Gobb.
Yes, hello, I'm Jackie Guile, Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability. Yes, I double checked the EPA Brownfield grant, and it does require, if there's historical, it's suspected there may be some historical value to the site or historical objects that such an evaluation be done as part of the remedial action plan.
Thank
And
you very much.
You're welcome. And I think you were at the last meeting, Alderman Huntley, when I mentioned that I'd already spoken to John Tower and that he had done just preliminary assessment, not on ground, but just background from what we've put together so far and from Mr. Worden's presentation, and that he thinks it's worth pursuing, and he needs further information though before he gets started with that.
Great. Thank you, guys. I figured that would be part of it, and I just, given the smart concerns from Mr. Warden, I wanted to make sure that we just double check that. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chair. I don't know whether I'm frozen or you are.
I can hear you, Alderman Finlayson. I think it might be him.
Oh, okay. Mr. Chair, we had a discussion about what this legislation was really about, and we decided to separate out the housing piece. It's really not about the housing. It's about whether to give the land, the property, over to the Resilience Authority. The CNI is a totally different discussion. So it wasn't like we were intruding on the housing discussion. This is just about our passing or selling the land to the authority so that it can be remediated, regardless of what's to be done on that property after the fact.
Yeah, I accept that completely, and I just thought that maybe there could be a way that a caveat be added to that, but I accept that. Alderman Shandelmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question on the, or I guess more comment on the Brownfield Fund and archaeological development before we move on or make a motion. Safety and for archaeological study, the issue of safety due to the contamination was brought up, although I'm sure that will be dealt with as part of the remediation and just the general keeping it clean, because we don't want to send people into unsafe, toxic conditions, but it is good to know that that was confirmed. So unless there is any further commentary on this from my colleagues, Mr. Chair, if you'll indulge me, could I make a favorable recommendation on this legislation?
Of course, I'll just add one quick thing.
Yep,
when we were in Sweden, we seen very affordable and efficient remediation done on sites that they allowed us to tour. Some of them had preschools on them. Some of them were in the process of being developed. And so I just would hope that we would, not have this drag out as American projects tend to for 7 years. And so I appreciate everybody's work on this. And I'll entertain your motion, Alderman Shandelmeyer.
Motion for a favorable recommendation.
All those,
Second.
Alderman Shandelmeyer, could you redo your
I'm sorry.
to include
Motion for a favorable recommendation as amended.
Is there a second on that?
Yep, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much to the staff for taking the time to put this together and seeing this through. I believe it'll be on the agenda on the 28th, if all goes well Wednesday.
That's correct.
Okay. Next item on the agenda will be, excuse me 1 minute. Next item on our agenda is 02125, Annapolis Harbor Line at 423 Chester Avenue on Back Creek. And if there is staff here to speak to that,
Yes.
Deputy City Manager Gopp.
Tim Jacobs, the acting deputy harbor master, is here to speak to it. He just has to be, he just needs to be raised to a panelist.
He's here. There. I see you, Mr. Jacobs, on the screen.
Can you hear me all right?
Absolutely. And I'll turn it over to you to give a brief background on the legislation. And then if any of the members of the committee have questions, we'll take questions.
Sure. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to see our staff report. But the background is that Safe Harbor was looking to extend the harbor line further into Channelward. If you're looking at the chart that was requested, it might look like a small change. However, if you get the chance to watch the last Maritime Advisory Board and or read our staff report, there is no such thing as a small change in that corner of the Back Creek where it really is a bit of a choke point at that turn. Some of our comments include the ability to safely navigate Back Creek. And then some things I learned from the Maritime Advisory Board, which I think are important, is historically when Mears was built prior to it changing hands to Safe Harbor, the harbor line was allowed to be 1/3 of the way across the harbor. Since then, it's been reduced to 25%. My assumption has been reduced to 25% was to keep the channels navigable. So Safe Harbor is already extended out quite a bit. And the proposed extension would reduce the distance between the channels from 213 to 156 feet. That's a difference of 57 feet in an area where most of the large boats that operate in Annapolis, including all the tour boats, are making turns and getting fuel. So our recommendation was to, of course, consider those things prior to making any decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. I see Alderman Shandelmeyer's hand is raised for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is less a question and more just piggybacking off of what Mr. Jacobs said and more me sharing my opinion on this legislation itself. I had a conversation with someone who shared their concerns that this legislation can set a precedent to continuing to gobble up the right of way and of gobbling up space into the public right of way into the creek of already somewhat limited space. And based on what Mr. Jacobs said of how busy that area is, which I did not know until he shared that information. So I do appreciate him adding on to that. I do think that while this legislation was submitted with the best of intentions, it can cause some very unintended consequences that we don't want to cause. So I am personally going to be voting no on this.
Alderman Huntley.
So we're giving up part of our public harbor to a private entity, or that's what the legislation would do. Are we getting anything in return?
So my understanding is this was supposed to be, or the request to extend the harbor line was, the idea was quid pro quo, and that we are changing the street end and they are and will probably lose some access to some of their slips. However, the request to extend the harbor line also includes a reconfiguration of the marina that will expand the size of the vessels that are there considerably, which of course adds to the congestion. So in that case, I don't think it's a, it's certainly not filling the hole that we're potentially creating by improving a street end. Hope that answers your question.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is it's maybe we're getting something that we already had, right? And to the extent we're giving up something, it's bigger than whatever we ever got. That we
Right,
are-
yeah, we're using our riparian rights. Now, they did have some great recommendations to maybe change the layout of what we're doing at that street end to better accommodate the marina. That came out of the Maritime Advisory Board, and certainly think that should come into consideration. Easy things like changing the access for the ramp that goes down to the water. So there are some great recommendations, but you know, certainly not a need to change the entire harbor line.
And in regards to the project, I think it's at the end of 6th Street that we're talking about. How certain are we that what the city is doing there is fully in compliance with the law, that we don't have any legal jeopardy? How sure are we that we're allowed to do what we want to do there?
I might give it a minute here because I would have to probably defer that to the project managers of the street end. I'm not involved in the construction of that.
Sure.
Yes. Alderman Huntley, I would say that, we designed this to be in compliance with the code and with the law, and we otherwise would not be eligible for the permits we need for that. We certainly are very careful at all times because people on the Eastport are always watching. And of course, we always want to be in compliance with our code, but we make sure, we double check all of that.
Okay. That I think that satisfies me, but yeah, I just kind of want to know as much as possible that if we move forward without this legislation on the 6th Street Park, that we're not going to end up with a big fat bill later.
Thank you, Alderman Huntley. I have 3 brief questions. For the 6th Street project, for clarity for everyone on board, we'll go on with or without this. We've clarified that. We would, if this passed, so they would pick up 7 slips. I think it's in the staff report. The city would get, I'm assuming, not a significant boost in revenue from that at all, if any. Because it's private, they aren't paying the okay.
Correct.
And the marina's property rate would not increase, so we wouldn't be getting any funding there. My last question is just at the point that you made that the harbor line had extended further out previously, had been reduced. How far out had it gone beyond the blue line that is proposed now?
I don't have it up, but so their original harbor line that was approved at Mears was approved when you could basically go, 1/3 of the way across the creek, or and to compare apples to apples, 33%. So after that, the city changed the policy to 25%. For the intent of protecting navigable waters. So Mears was, obviously a pretty historic marina in the area, has the advantage of already being one of the marinas that takes up a fair amount of the fairway.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Jacobs. Are there any other questions from the committee? I think we are not feeling any particular way for this. And so there is no direct benefit, and it seems to be a hazard to public navigation of the waters. Is there a motion on this?
Mr. Chair, I would like to make an unfavorable recommendation on this legislation.
Is there a second on that? So
Second.
move. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you so much, Mr. Jacobs, as well as you, Ms. Gao, for the work on this, and appreciate the recommendations on behalf of the city.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda, well, that actually concludes the legislative portion of the agenda. We'll at this time move on to, are there any questions before we move on to general discussion? Any questions from the committee? Just before we move forward, I'm assuming that in September, we'll have 2 of our committee meetings to make up for, because in August we're off. And so we have to make up for the legislation that'll be coming off of public hearing. And then there is still legislation in that is waiting for planning commission recommendations or whatever. And so we'll figure it out. But I think to handle the influx of legislation, we'll have to have 2 meetings if that's fine with everybody.
If that's what it takes, Mr. Chair, I accept.
All right. Next item on the agenda, general discussion, ID 12525 Woodside Garden tennis lease update. I think we have some guests on joining us, if we could have them brought up.
Yes, hello. How's everyone? My name is Todd Bowling, VP of Operations for Fairstead Management. Would like to thank you for extending the invitation for us to attend your meeting. Also have on the call a couple of my colleagues. I have Kenneth Hart, Senior Regional Manager overseeing Woodside Gardens, and then the Senior Community Manager as well, Shanae Whitfield, on the call in the meeting as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And we greatly appreciate you all committing this time to us this afternoon. The reason that I brought for or extended the invitation and Alderman Finlayson made sure that you all were here this afternoon. We got messages to the committee and to myself as individual as it relates to 4 applicants that had been approved. And again, this is all alleged with the tenants or prospective tenants have stated that they've been approved and they were prepared to sign lease and move into properties.
Okay.
And then a change within property management happened, and the essentially they were denied once the new management came in. And so obviously, you know, we deal with property management change, and I'm sure things could have been communicated better, but the end goal is for us to find a resolution for the residents.
Absolutely.
Alderwoman Finlayson, did you want to speak to anything, or did you just want to allow our guests to just jump right in?
No, I think they are the experts on dealing with the property. So I'd prefer to hear from Fairstead staff.
Yeah.
They can answer the questions, I think, better.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that if we have applicants who applied, I mean, our intention, obviously, if we process your application, you're approved, you know, we have a wait list. So if you're patient enough to stay on our wait list and your name happens to come up on the wait list and we process your application for approval, the objective and goal is to get you moved into your new home. I mean, that's what we want to do. So I would be interested in knowing, if you happen to know, who the applicants are, and then we can look into the matter further and then work to resolve the matter.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to send over the names. I won't share that publicly in the meetings. But I just want to share, for example, in one case, she's saying that they got an application and they were approved to move in on April 11th in building 712. When they later came to move back into the unit, they said that the property manager got fired, and the new management told her that she couldn't move, that the unit was no longer available. Mm. So in an instance like that, what then happens to an application where she was scheduled to move in April 11th? It's now July the 21st.
Right.
Are units, is the property to capacity, or?
It's not to capacity. We do have vacant apartments available. And I will tell you that if we have an applicant, we process an application, what typically happens is we assign that application, that tenant, to an apartment. Right? If we schedule a move-in, it's usually due to the fact that we have an apartment available if a move-in is scheduled. We did have a staffing change, but that, in most cases would not have hampered the process of moving a resident into an apartment if the application had been approved.
So for the sake of not disclosing obviously the applicant's public information,
Sure.
particularly in the remaining few that I see here, if we forward the information to you and I'll CC obviously my committee members here and the alderwoman on that thread, can we be assured, barring any drastic violations that would prevent them from being moved in,
Sure.
that these situations would be handled? I just was confused why it would even negate to the fact that they would have to get the older people involved in something that was from April.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I can tell you that once we're provided the names of the applicants, we will definitely investigate it, look into it. And if, in fact, the applicants were approved to move in, right, then we will work to maintain that track for sure. From we're looking at April 11th until now is quite some time. So if an apartment was vacant at that time, chances are it's not vacant now. And that's why it's going to be important to really look into it and determine kind of the series of events that led up to where we are right now.
Completely agree. And particularly in some cases, they have children, and that also troubles me.
Oh, sure.
And the members of this committee are, well aware of the housing crisis that's taking place in Annapolis and the shortage of housing. And I obviously understand vacancy go quick, but I just would hope these could be rectified. Alderwoman Finlayson are members of the committee. Are there any questions for our guests tonight? Alderman Schandelmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sir, what do you know off the top of your head what your approximate vacancy rate is? Like if something comes up and a tenant needs to move units, what is your ability to accommodate that?
Well, great question. We do have a waiting list. The waiting list could be up to 2 years. Okay. In terms of our current occupancy percentage, I'll defer that to Kenneth Hart or Shanae Whitfield, who actually oversee the wait list. Kenneth, are you there? Shanae?
Yeah, I'm here. Shanae, I don't know what our current I don't know what the current vacancy rate is. It's like 93% vacant. I'm occupied at the moment.
97.22. We have 4 vacant units.
4 vacant units. Okay.
Yes.
So you keep about approximately 3%. So approximately 3% of the little less than 3% of the units are vacant. And that's, I'm guessing, mostly due to tenant turnover. Is that correct?
No,
primarily, yes.
Okay. So if an incident like, let's say, flooding or mold or anything comes up that would make a unit uninhabitable, you are able to accommodate families, at least for a unit in the complex itself, traditionally?
Ideally, that would be the ideal approach. However, if it's a situation where we don't have an apartment available, then we would place our resident in a hotel as we work to remediate the mold and work to address the situation. Or have a unit made ready available for them to transfer into.
So in those situations, though, and this is just me trying to get a general sense of what the situation is. This isn't me like shaming or scolding here.
Sure.
Just trying to get a snapshot. How often are you able to accommodate someone in a unit in the complex versus how often are you able to do you have to put someone in a hotel? Is it like 50-50, 75-25?
I would say, I'm sorry, Kenneth.
I was going to say that would depend on the resident circumstances. As if it's a family, let's say in a 2-bedroom, and we don't have a 2-bedroom availability, then we might move over to a hotel. So it depends on the circumstances for that individual family.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Just piggybacking off of Alderman Schandelmeyer's point, there are properties within the portfolio that the residents could also transfer to. Is that accurate?
So when you say the portfolio, are you talking
maybe other properties that that are owned by the managing company?
Alderman, are you referring to properties outside of the city of Annapolis?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. That depending on the situation, that's a possibility. Those properties also would have wait lists that we would have to contend with. So ideally, if we are not able to accommodate the family there on site immediately, then we would move to setting up hotel reservations for them so they're comfortable until we can make an apartment available or until we can remediate the situation.
But I guess the main takeaway is you do not have a very high vacancy rate. In fact, you're
We don't.
very long wait lists, and it's mostly filled up.
You're absolutely correct. Typically, we hover around 98%. And as you know, the need for housing, just around affordable housing around the country, there's a huge need for it, and
Thank you.
Annapolis is no exception.
Alderman Huntley, I see Aaron.
I just had a curiosity question while we're talking about vacancy rates. Would you all say you've seen any noticeable change in your vacancy rate since, I don't know, over whatever time period you could state? Oh, Mr. Bowling, you're muted.
I apologize for that. No, I wouldn't say anything noticeable. Typically, as I mentioned, 98% occupancy is typically where the property sits. Yeah.
No, thank you. I only asked because I know in the housing market in the broadest sense, vacancy rates have been going down, or vacancy rates have been going down. And, but it sounds like from you guys, what you're saying is you already had a very low vacancy rate. And so it's staying low. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Alderman Huntley. I guess one of my last questions is, has the new property manager been introduced to the community? Has there been a formal greeting, either written or in person? And if not, can we count on something of the sorts being done? Obviously, some of our biggest challenges with residents is that they have issues communicating with property management that leads to small issues festering over a period of time, and it blows up to the point where we're here in committee meetings. And I'm of the belief that if they're able to walk into the property management office or call or email and feel that there will be no penalties held against them, that if it's an open in place, then this probably could have been done in April for in particularly this one situation. I'm not sure how long the others have been going on. So can we just count on that, some sort of formal greeting or letter being sent out?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure. We've had some events that featured Shanae at them, introducing her to the property, but we will endeavor to get another notice out to the community announcing her as the community manager on site, so that the residents know what her office hours are and that they can stop by and visit her.
Thank you very much. And do you operate on a hybrid? Is this office hybrid, or is it Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right. If there are no further questions from the committee, or Alderwoman Finlayson, did you?
Well, I would just like to thank Mr. Bowling, Mr. Hart, Ms. Whitfield, Ms. Smith for coming to our meeting this evening. And just to say that, they are always very responsive. So I want to say thank you for being responsive. And I hope the message goes out that there is a new person and that she is there and open to their concerns. I mean, of course, they can reach out to us, but they have staff on hand that should be their first approach. So, but I just wanted to say thank you for being so responsive. Whenever I call, whenever I send you a message, you've attended community meetings. I guess last one's been a couple months now, but just thank you. And thank you, Alderman Gay, for bringing this to light so that they can address the concerns that we've heard this evening.
Well,
thank you.
We thank you for your warm welcome. We appreciate the partnership, the collaboration, and thank you again. We'll work through this and work to resolve it.
Thank you all very much. And Alderwoman, I echo your share of sentiments. Is we get it. It is a tough job, you know, managing the properties and dealing with the many personalities that you know, our constituents have. And so, you know, kudos to you. Thank you for stepping up to the challenge. And we'll follow up offline so that this can be rectified. But to the point that the Alderwoman made, I've reached out to her, and within the week, you all were here. And so thank you for also having that relationship with her.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you.
No further questions from the committee. At this time, we'll close out ID 12525 and move to any last closing comments. Alderman Schandelmeyer,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
is there a second there?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank
So
you.
long, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.